Hi, I'm Caleb Giddings from Gun Nuts Media, and today's video is brought on by recent events that you probably would have had to have been living under a rock to not heard of. But I'm talking about the terrorist attack, mass shooting, whatever you want to call it, that happened over the last week in Christchurch in New Zealand. Now, we're not going to talk about the politics or that event specifically because I don't want to publicize it and I don't want to give any more publicity to the disgusting human being who perpetrated this attack. But what we're going to talk about instead are survival tips, things that you can do to increase your chances of surviving a mass shooting, things that you can do to increase your chance of being able to help other people in the event of a mass casualty. And I spent a lot of time thinking about this video before I started filming it because I wasn't even sure I wanted to make it. And one of the reasons I didn't want to make it is I don't want to feed into the false narrative that mass shootings are on the rise, at least here in the United States, because they're not. And it's a trick of the media that's promoting this narrative that mass shootings are on the rise, when in fact they're not. And crime is actually lower than it has been almost entirely in the entirety of my lifetime. Cities are safer than they've ever been, with the exception of certain places like Chicago. But generally speaking, cities are safer. Violent crime is on the decline, and mass shootings are not on the rise. But it is a topic that a lot of people have concerns about. It's a real thing that people are worried about, and that many people don't know what to do in that situation. So hopefully you'll be able to watch this video, and these tips and these ideas are for everyone, not just people who carry guns for personal defense, but anyone who's concerned about their safety and what to do if you find yourself in a mass casualty event. Now, the first thing that we're going to talk about is the federal government's guidelines for what to do if you find yourself in an active shooter event or a mass casualty event, however you want to call it. We'll probably use the terms mass casualty and active shooter interchangeably today. However, the federal government, the U.S. government, has published guidelines on what you should do if you find yourself in that situation. And those guidelines are simple: run, hide, fight. Those are actually pretty good guidelines. There's really nothing wrong with those as guidelines, because if you can get away, you should. If you can hide and not be in a position where you're endangering yourself, you should. And if you should fight, and if you have to fight, you should fight with everything you have. Fight like your life depends on it, because it does. Now, unfortunately, run, hide, fight isn't always applicable for everyone. Are you going to be able to run if you have a child with you? Are you going to be able to hide if you're caught in the open? And are you going to be able to fight if you lack the mindset and skills to successfully take the fight to your enemy? Let's look at run first. How are you supposed to run if you're not fit? So our first tip for how to survive a mass casualty event: be in good shape, or at least some kind of shape. Be in good enough shape that you can successfully sprint 100 yards while carrying a 45-pound child. I would say that's good enough shape to make it to the nearest exit. And with that in mind, when you're out in public, in the sorts of places where these mass casualty events happen, know where the fucking exits are. You'd be amazed the number of times that I've gone out to malls and restaurants and public places with friends, and no one has any idea where the nearest exit is or how we would get out of that area if we needed to get out in a hurry. And I'm guilty of it myself. Know where your exits are. So if your plan is to run, you need to be able to run, and you need to know where the exits are. Now, if you can't run and your plan is to hide, that's fine too. If you're going to hide, you need to know a couple of critical things. First off, you need to understand how angles work. One of the things that we do when we teach shooting from cover or concealment in a class is we point out that distance favors the shooter, all right? And it favors angles, okay? The further I am away from cover, the easier it is for me to stay behind it relative to a shooter. Now, you need to understand also that there are two different types of things that can hide you. There's cover and there's concealment. Concealment hides you visually. So there are lots of things in a mall or a church or a movie theater that you can hide behind that are concealment and will hide you visually from a mass shooter, but won't stop bullets. That's concealment. If it hides you but doesn't stop a bullet, it's concealment. Some things hide you and stop bullets. Those things are called cover. It's important to know the difference because, unlike the movies, people shoot through stuff in real life. It's also important to know that things may be cover from one type of gun, but concealment from another type of gun, and some items may even start off as cover, but become concealment due to prolonged exposure to gunfire. That being said, there's interesting psychological research on humans. We tend to not shoot through visual barriers. People who are trained and know what they're doing often shoot through visual barriers, but a lot of people won't do it. So concealment is better than nothing. Cover is better than concealment, and getting the fuck out of Dodge is the best. Of course, what if running and hiding aren't options? Again, you have your family with you and you need to protect them, or you're trying to run and the gunman is in between you and the exit. Well, that's when we get to the fight. And obviously, for my fans and viewers out there who carry firearms, you're carrying a tool that you can use to take the fight to your enemy. You need to be well trained in how to use this tool. Because if you find yourself in this situation, it turns out that your gunfight is a gunfight and not a shooting. It's not a masked man with a knife jumping out from 10 yards away yelling, "Aha, give me your money, see?" It's someone with a rifle or a shotgun or a handgun who is trying to kill you and everyone around you. And that is a gunfight. And if you haven't practiced for a gunfight, you might fail. I would rather fail and try to fight my way out than not try at all. But that's just me, and that's my mindset. But if you find yourself in that situation, you need to be ready to fight. You need to be prepared for a fight. You need to have practiced, you need to be trained, and you need to have the mental fortitude to get yourself through that fight. Maybe you're not carrying a gun. You don't like guns, you're in a gun-free zone, and you followed the strict letter of the policy that day, and now you find yourself confronting an armed man with nothing but your wits. Maybe you have a pocket knife, maybe you have pepper spray. One of the things that I strongly encourage you to do is familiarize yourself with what in your environment could be used as an improvised weapon. Is there a flagpole nearby? I'm not talking about one of those big ones that you haul the flag up on in the morning. I'm talking about the kinds that have a fucking spear on the end of them. That might make a handy stabbing implement. But the most important thing I can say about fight is that you must be prepared to fight. You cannot half-ass it. You can't half-ass it in this situation because someone is trying to kill not only you, but everyone around you and everyone you know. And you must be willing to go to the last full measure, all right? My friends and I have a saying, no one gets to kill us for free, okay? I may lose a gunfight. That's a reality. There are factors in a gunfight that are beyond my control. I may lose a gunfight. But you have to make the choice now, while you're sitting here watching this video, while you're home, sitting in your bed, sitting on your couch, not doing anything. You have to decide now how willing you are to make this fight. Because if you don't, you'll have to decide in that moment. And if you have to decide in that moment, you don't know what you're going to decide. So you need to make a line. And this is where the idea of mental rehearsal comes in to this sort of thing. You need to draw a hard, bright line that says, these are the circumstances in which I will fight. And when I fight, I will fight all the way. I will be willing to give until that last full measure. Because even if you lose, no one gets to kill us for free. And that's an important thing to remember today. The last thing I'm going to talk about are things that you can carry on you, things that you should have. You can carry them in a backpack, or if you have voluminous pockets, those are great too. But if you find yourself in a mass casualty event, I strongly recommend having medical training and carrying some sort of medical gear on you. If you want to go the affordable route, get a tourniquet from North American Rescue. Go to their website and buy it. Go to North American Rescue's website and buy it. And I'll put a link in the description to it. Get a tourniquet from North American Rescue. Buy that. Get a flat pack from Philster and carry that. Philster also makes a nice little medical wallet that you can carry. Or you can go on Amazon and get this Adventure Kit Trauma Pack for $25, I think. It's super cheap. And again, I'll put a link in the description to it. And the reason why I think that you should carry these things is very simple. If you are in a mass casualty event and survive because you were situationally aware, because you knew where the exits were, because you knew where to hide, or you successfully fought, help someone else. Put a tourniquet on someone who's bleeding. Pack a wound with QuikClot. Do something else. Once you've made the decision to help, go all the way. Help people. Help the people around you who are shot. The last thing I'm going to say in this video is difficult for people. The other thing that you have to do, and in my opinion, the most important thing that you have to do before, God forbid, you end up in a situation like this, is you need to know whether you're a high responder or a low responder. And there's nothing wrong with either one of these personality types. But a high responder is the sort of person who would see an active shooter and choose to engage that person. They would say, I have the skills and the training to take this shot and engage this person at great risk to my own life in a situation where I don't have to, where I have no legal or moral requirement to do this. And a high responder is going to do that. They're going to throw down. And that's okay. A low responder is someone who's going to see that exact same situation and say, I can get out this door and escape and keep my family safe and protect the people that are most important to me. And I'm going to do that. And that's okay too. Understand, I'm talking about a purely civilian context here, okay? If you're a law enforcement officer or a member of a military occupational specialty that's trained to close and destroy with the enemy, I believe you have a moral obligation in that situation to help. But as a private citizen, know what you are. Are you a high responder? If you are, if you're the sort of person that believes that you would attempt to close and destroy with an active shooter or someone attempting a mass casualty event, you need to be extremely well trained. You need to be better trained than that person is. And you need to understand that about yourself, because a high responder with poor skills is a danger to everyone around them. A low responder with poor skills isn't. They're making a reasonable choice to hide or run and get away. But a high responder with poor skills, someone who wants to engage with the enemy, endangers everyone else around them as well. So if you are a high responder, if you're the sort of person who believes that they would want to get involved and want to defend others, good. Good for you. That's very brave. Make sure that you have the skills to back up your bravery. I'm Caleb Giddings. Thanks for watching.